March at the head of the ideas of your century, and they will follow you and support you. March behind them, and they will drag you after them. March against them, and they will overthrow you. Those were more than just the words of Napoleon III. They were his whole governing philosophy. Last week, the emperor found in Eugenie de Montijo an empress for the French. Together, they befriended the British royal family, defeated the Russian Empire in the Crimea, and began the process of transforming France into one of the greatest industrial, military, and cultural powers of the 19th century. Today, we're going to witness the incredible height the Second French Empire achieved under their leadership, and the fulfillment of another great geopolitical project, the unification of Italy. But first, I cannot thank War Thunder enough for sponsoring this whole series, but you can help by signing up to play for free via the links in the description and pinned comment. New and returning players on PC and console who haven't played for the last 6 months also get a free bonus pack with multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. Thank you, War Thunder, for making in-depth history like this free for everyone. And it's not too late to take advantage of 10% off your Napoleon III poster and tee. In July of 1858, French Emperor Napoleon III and Piedmontese Prime Minister the Count of Cavour secretly met at the thermal spa of Plombières. There, Napoleon committed the French army to assist Piedmont in a defensive war against Austria. Or more realistically, a war which the Piedmontese provoked. Together, their armies would drive the Habsburgs out of Lombardy and Venetia. But that was only the beginning of their plans. Piedmont would be transformed into the Kingdom of Northern Italy by annexing the liberated provinces and the northern Papal States. A Kingdom of Central Italy would be created out of the Central Italian states and most of the rest of the Pope's country, leaving the Bishop of Rome with a rump state around his city. The 4 remaining Italian states, including the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, would then be loosely united into an Italian confederation, with the Pope as its figurehead president. Though, as its strongest member, the North Italians would hold the real power. All the French emperor asked in return were Piedmont's tiny French-speaking provinces of Nice and Savoy. He also suggested placing his cousin Murat on the throne of Two Sicilies, where his father, the famous Marshal Murat, was king under Napoleon I. And to seal the deal, the Piedmontese king would marry his unfortunate daughter to Bonaparte's far more odious cousin, Plan Plan. It wasn't long before news of Cavour and Napoleon's secret meeting got out. And it didn't take a diplomatic genius to figure out what the former Italian revolutionary and ambitious Piedmontese prime minister were up to. Which begs the question, why meet secretly at all? Had they just announced their meeting and claimed it was about something innocuous like trade, everyone probably would have believed them. Nonetheless, even after mobilizing Piedmont's army, Cavour found it difficult to provoke the Austrians into attacking. During this period of heightened tension, Napoleon agreed to attend a Russian-led peace conference, which Cavour took as a betrayal, threatening resignation and even suicide. Until, ironically, the Austrians bailed him out. Not only did Austria refuse to attend the conference, it issued an ultimatum demanding Piedmont's full demobilization. This was exactly the provocation Cavour needed. On April 25th, 1859, France informed the Austrians they would defend Piedmont from any invasion. 2 days later, Austria declared war. For this war, Napoleon III chose to almost literally follow his uncle's footsteps and lead French armies in northern Italy himself. Embracing modern warfare, French soldiers rushed into the peninsula aboard steamships and, for the first time in European war, trains. Meanwhile, Austria's army invaded Piedmont at a rather leisurely pace, allowing Napoleon to rendezvous with the Piedmontese before the Austrians could crush them. It quickly became clear that Napoleon III had few of the military talents of his uncle. The French emperor accidentally marched his army into the Austrians dug in near Magenta and defeated them in a rather clumsy engagement. As they retreated, the Allies liberated Milan. At this point, Austria's Emperor Franz Joseph chose to assume command of Austrian armies himself. On June 24th, the two grossly unqualified emperor generals blundered into each other at Solferino, where Bonaparte again proved the victor, though at the cost of 15,000 casualties on both sides. The next step should have been to dislodge the Austrian army from its 4 intimidating fortresses in Venetia, known as the Quadrilateral. But the French emperor started having second thoughts. The Piedmontese army, led by their king, performed remarkably poorly. The emperor himself, though brave, was appalled by the bloodshed. Back home, the French people questioned why their emperor was spending so much blood and treasure on a cause unlikely to benefit them, while French Catholics were concerned about undermining the Papal States. Internationally, watching a Bonaparte rampage across northern Italy recalled bad memories. Many states feared that the revolution the war was inspiring in central Italy, overthrowing its Habsburg-aligned rulers, might spread to them. And Prussia seemed to threaten France directly by mobilizing its armies along the Rhine. So without informing Piedmont, or even his own generals, Napoleon III arranged a meeting with Franz Joseph under armistice. On July 10th, the two emperors agreed that Austria would cede Lombardy to Piedmont. Franz Joseph would keep Venetia, but with greater autonomy and membership to the Italian Confederation. The Habsburg-influenced states of central Italy would remain independent and be allowed to restore their pro-Austrian rulers themselves. Cavour resigned in outrage, but the peace deal fell apart almost instantly. None of the central Italian states were able to restore their rulers. Instead, Cavour returned to the premiership and annexed them into Piedmont, and then invaded and annexed Romagna from the Papal States. This turn of events allowed the Austrians to renege on Venetian autonomy and confederal membership, but events in 1860 made the confederation unnecessary. Italian revolutionaries overthrew the Bourbons in the Two Sicilies. Cavour ordered the invasion of and then annexed much of the rest of the Papal States to connect with the Southern Kingdom, which he then also annexed. Aside from Venetia and a rump papal state around Rome, all of Italy was united under Piedmont, which was now the Kingdom of Italy. Napoleon may not have proven himself a diplomatic or military genius, but he accomplished exactly what he set out to do, the liberation of the peninsula. And, with the annexation of Nice and Savoy, gained 700,000 new French-speaking subjects in the process. By 1860, Napoleon III was having relationship problems, both internationally and with his own family. The Bonaparte clan feuded ceaselessly over everything from personality to politics. Though the emperor expertly handled his difficult family, soothing over hurt feelings and forgiving transgressions, there was little he could say to console poor Eugenie, hurt as ever by his infidelities. And, since he virtually destroyed the Pope's realm, she now feared for their very souls. The final straw came after the death of Eugenie's beloved sister, Paca, while Eugenie and Napoleon toured French Algeria. The emperor chose not to inform the empress until after their return. Naturally, when Eugenie was finally told, she was livid, and made the most irregular decision to leave France for a while and travel Great Britain incognito. Though they'd remain on good terms, the British no longer wanted France for an ally after the Italian adventure. Austria was seething at the loss of her richest province and influence in Italy, and the many tiny statelets of the German Confederation feared they might be the next target of Napoleonic ambition. Conspiring to exploit the situation was Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria, Prince Regent Wilhelm of Prussia, and Prince Albert of England, who didn't inform the Queen or Parliament. The Austrian Emperor wanted revenge, while the English and Prussian princes hoped to encourage German unity by framing France as a common enemy. On June 16, 1860, in the capital city of Baden, Napoleon III, Prince Regent Wilhelm, and ruling princes from across Germany gathered in secret. There, Louis Napoleon was forced to calm their fears through a combination of consolations, promises of peace, and a rather humiliating public declaration that he had no aggressive intentions towards Germany. It was odd for a French emperor to agree to be judged by mere princes and kings like this, but he believed it the best way to calm the situation. But the irony behind it all was that Prince Wilhelm actually had his own aggressive intentions in Germany. Prussia's top military leaders were already preparing major expansion and reforms to the army. In just a few months, this Prince Wilhelm would be crowned King Wilhelm I, and with the help of a certain Otto von Bismarck, set those plans into motion. Though 19th century Europe frowned on expansion within the continent, colonization overseas was a different matter. Though the French would never have a global empire equal to Great Britain, Napoleon III ensured that France would rule Europe's second empire. France already held considerable territory in Guyana, the Caribbean, and Africa. Though its Algerian colony was mostly a headache, with its constant rebellions demanding tens of thousands of French soldiers to put down. Like in so many other matters of state, Napoleon III's genius was not in taking direct charge, but in allowing subordinates a free hand to assert France's interests for him. In 1854, France's consul to Egypt, Ferdinand de Lesseps, personally secured a concession from the Khedive to build a canal across the Suez Peninsula. In 1864, France occupied Djibouti, a strategically located harbor and world's top source of posterior puns. And the emperor signed the first commercial treaties with Madagascar, beginning the process of integrating the massive island into the French Empire. In Asia, the Pacific island of New Caledonia was taken as a penal colony as early as 1853. In 1860, France joined Britain in the Second Opium War, where French ships and soldiers played a key role forcing China to sign the Convention of Peking, opening vast new markets to French commerce and its population to the Catholic Church. To the south, answering calls from Jesuit missionaries, French armed forces occupied South Vietnam in 1862 and Cambodia in 63, beginning what would soon become French Indochina. But France's most ambitious colonial project took place in Mexico. Since winning its independence from Spain, the unhappy country suffered political corruption, coups, revolts, and the loss of over half its territory to secessionists and the United States of America. When Mexican liberals came to power in 1861, reactionary exiles begged Empress Eugenie, who'd long been interested in Mexican affairs, for an intervention. Such an intervention became very attractive after the United States became distracted by its civil war, and the Mexican government antagonized Britain, France, and Spain by announcing a 2-year moratorium on foreign debt repayments. Morny favored intervention too, if for no other reason than he was speculating on Mexican debt, so stood to make a fortune by forcing repayments. The emperor himself saw many opportunities in Mexico. The invasion would project influence into the New World, and create the opportunity to build a canal across Central America. Defending the Mexican church would help regain the support of French Catholics he lost in Italy. And, most significant of all, Napoleon saw it as a way to move toward an alliance with Austria. You see, now that the British no longer considered France an ally, Napoleon sought to ally France with Austria. To improve relations, he arranged to revive the Mexican Empire and crown for its emperor Archduke Maximilian, the younger brother of Austria's Emperor Franz Joseph. France, Spain, and Great Britain all agreed to occupy Veracruz until the Mexicans resumed their debt repayments, taking the city in December 1861. When the Mexicans agreed to begin repayments in April of next year, the British and Spanish prepared to leave. But the French, despite being explicitly forbidden by their agreement with England and Spain, stuck to their original plan of regime change. France's 6,000 soldiers began their 200-mile march to Mexico City, but they were ravaged the whole way by disease, lack of supplies, and Mexican guerrillas, until finally being defeated on the famous Cinco de Mayo. Napoleon III sent tens of thousands of reinforcements, who finally took the capital on June 1864. But the new Mexican Emperor Maximilian I immediately faced massive rebellions, requiring tens of thousands of French soldiers just to keep his throne. Napoleon had embroiled France in the Mexican quagmire. Mexico was not Empress Eugenie's only pet foreign policy project. Another passion of hers was Poland. Mostly occupied by Russia since the Napoleonic Wars, the liberal Catholic Poles were unhappy to be ruled by the autocratic Orthodox Russians. While the Empress couldn't convince her husband to go to war for Poland, they did use the issue to win a diplomatic victory over Prussia. In February 1863, Prussia's new minister-president, Otto von Bismarck, signed the Alvensleben Convention with Russia. The deal increased the two powers' cooperation against Polish insurgents, but was reviled across Europe. With Napoleon III leading the condemnations, Prussia's King Wilhelm I was forced to withdraw from the agreement, and almost fired Bismarck over it. In the end, Wilhelm I kept his minister-president, but Bismarck would never forget this humiliation dealt to him by Napoleon III. High off this victory, Eugenie came up with another, even more ambitious scheme. The Empress knew her husband was gunning for an Austrian alliance, so took matters into her own hands. On February 21st, 1863, she secretly summoned the Austrian ambassador, Metternich, son of the famous Austrian foreign minister of the same name, to make a unique proposal. I must say, Empress Eugenie, you truly have piqued my interest. Just what is this proposal of yours? My proposal, Mr. Ambassador, is to save Europe. No, the world. What do you mean by the world, exactly? The solution is so simple, I can't believe nobody saw it sooner. We simply have to redraw the map of Europe. All of it? We'll start small, of course. First, we restore the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth to its full glory, out of territories currently controlled by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Then, we solve the German question by handing all of South Germany to Austria, and North Germany to Prussia. Except Silesia, of course, which goes back to you. The left bank of the Rhine, however, will be granted to the French Empire, for safekeeping, of course. Naples will be liberated from Italy, who will be compensated with Austrian Venetia. And finally, we'll achieve the age-old dream of driving the Turks out of Christian Europe by splitting their empire between Austria and Russia along the Danube. The rest of Turkey, naturally, will go to Greece, whose rightful capital will be restored to Constantinople, which allows me to finally achieve the Purple Phoenix achievement in Europa Universalis 4. So, any questions? Just one. Are you proposing we restore the Byzantine Empire? Why? Do you think we should restore the Roman Empire instead? Metternich could hardly believe it. Empress Eugenie was a map gamer, and certainly played War Thunder 2, link in the description. Fellas, do you see what I am getting at? Fellas! 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 Metternich did not take Eugenie's proposal seriously at all, only saying about the incident, "What a flight," and with "what a bird." But Eugenie's actions had major diplomatic consequences. It did not pass Metternich's notice that the French Empress's scheme involved considerable territorial exchanges around Austria, Germany, and Italy, while France would give up nothing and have its frontiers extended to the Rhine. Most likely unaware of what his wife had done, Napoleon III sent Metternich his own far more serious proposal just 3 days later. But because of Eugenie, the Austrians doubted his motives. They feared the Empress had revealed Napoleon's true expansionist intentions, and that France had little concern for Austria's interests. As a result, in the 1860s, neither France nor Austria had a single major ally in Europe. Both would suffer dearly for it. Though issues certainly assailed the Second French Empire, the latter half of the 1860s saw it achieve its zenith of glory and power. Napoleon III's France had humbled Europe's other two empires on the battlefield, unified the Italian peninsula, was the protector of the papacy, while its armies and fleets patrolled a global empire with 3 times as many subjects as France itself. The metropole had been transformed from a backwards, impoverished country to an industrial rival of Great Britain. Production of coal, iron, steel, and manufactured goods soared. Railroads crisscrossed the country. As the rich got richer, so too did the poor, benefiting from growing wages and cheaper goods. And it was all run from a resplendent new capital in Paris. Haussmann had been a busy little baron, promoted to that rank for his services. The new capital boasted modern sewage, clean water, gas lighting, and whole districts built in gorgeous Second Empire architecture. The city was connected by wide, difficult-to-barricade boulevards, and was dotted by greenery and public parks for all. New schools, churches, hospitals, and clinics were built, many financed by the Empress herself. With electrification, all of Paris was illuminated late into the night, truly turning it into the city of lights we know today. Napoleon and Haussmann initially set out to recreate the city of London in France. Instead, they far surpassed it. This magnificent city was a global capital of finance, industry, science, and culture. It produced many of France's greatest artists, including 2 of my all-time favorites, Jean-Léon Gérôme and William Adolphe Bouguereau. Practically every musician from the time played Paris: Chopin, Liszt, and Wagner. Perhaps the most emblematic of these musical geniuses was Offenbach, who produced some of Imperial France's most iconic melodies. You'll no doubt recognize this little tune. Spectacular, pompous, and tacky beyond all measure, only possible in the Second French Empire of Napoleon III. In 1867, the Emperor showed the world how far his empire had come at the Great Universal Exhibition of Paris in 1867. Over 11 million people attended, including 3 emperors, 8 kings, 1 viceroy, 5 queens, 24 princes, 7 princesses, 9 grand dukes, 2 grand duchesses, 2 archdukes, and many more members of the nobility beside. Just 2 years later, in November of 1869, Empress Eugenie led the opening ceremony of the Suez Canal, at one point exclaiming from the Imperial yacht Aigle, "Never in my life have I seen anything more beautiful." This was not the work of Napoleon III alone, but of the men and women his empire empowered, including Empress Eugenie, Baron Haussmann, Ferdinand de Lesseps, and of course, the Emperor's half-brother and virtual vice-emperor, Morny. The Emperor promoted him to Duke for his services. But behind all of the pomp and circumstance, cracks were beginning to show. Heavy smoking and the rigors of imperial office were taking their toll on the emperor's health. In March of 1865, Morny died unexpectedly, aged 54, leaving behind a grieving widow and an empire bereft of skilled leadership. His death hit the imperial couple especially hard, as they were both close to him. Back in 1862, Otto von Bismarck showed up as Prussian ambassador to Paris. Having seen the empire up close, he concluded, "From a distance, it is stunning, but when you get up close, there is nothing there at all." In its emperor, the enigmatic Sphinx of the Tuileries, Bismarck only saw a sphinx without a riddle. Later that year, Bismarck became Prussia's minister-president, and he planned to use this office to prove that the French emperor was not a mighty sphinx at all, but a harmless kitten. And that's where we'll leave our story, with Napoleon III and his Second French Empire at their apex of glory and power, forging nations, colonizing the globe, and as the world's envy in economy, science, and culture. Don't forget to leave a baguette emoji in the comments as a secret message to all of the other French imperialists who made it this far too. Don't forget to check out this series' awesome sponsor, War Thunder, via the links in the description and pinned comment. Not only will new and returning players on PC and console get a free bonus pack, signing up with our link helps show War Thunder how awesome they are for making this series possible. You'll also find links to where you can pick up merch 10% off and become a supporter for awesome rewards. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you to Hero Tonfa for the cool art. Go say hi via the link in the description. This series would be impossible without our generous supporters, including our Into Space members, Archmagos Excellentia, Duke Nelson, Encore Financials, Equinox, Feline Man, GS Rogers, G Money, Josiah, Lethiel Viriath, and Payter.